Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. Imagine you're an investor, right? You're doing your research, making decisions based on public info. Then a stock you watch suddenly tanks, or maybe it skyrockets right before some big news breaks, and you get that feeling someone knew before you did. That unfairness. That's kind of what insider dealing is all about.
It really strikes at the heart of market fairness, doesn't it? It's about trust. And today we're going to, dig into what that means, how it works, and why there's such a huge effort to catch it and stop it.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've been looking at excerpts from Insider Dealing FinCrime Intelligence. It gives a really good look under the hood. So our mission today is to unpack what insider dealing actually is, the rules, and how it's, well, found and prevented. It's really key to understanding how financial markets are supposed to work fairly for everyone.
Exactly. And the source really stresses this isn't just legal jargon. It's about the fundamental trust in the whole system.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. The source gives us a definition. What exactly is insider dealing?
Well, at its core, the definition from FinCrime Intelligence is pretty straightforward. Insider dealing, or insider trading, happens when someone uses information that's not public and is material, meaning important enough to affect a stock price.
Okay.
They use that info about a company's securities to trade them,
Mm-hmm.
usually, for their own personal financial gain.
Right. So the key things are information nobody else has. It's got to be significant info, the material bit, and then actually trading on it.
That's it. And the big problem, as the source points out, is how this just completely undermines market fairness. It gives those insiders an edge that, well, other investors just don't have. It's not a level playing field. And that's why regulators everywhere take it so seriously.
Yeah, it feels like a fundamental breach of trust. So how does this actually happen? Like
Yeah.
in the real world? The source gives some examples.
Right, yeah. It's not always like some spy movie scene. Often, it's people using info they get through their jobs. For instance, the source talks about a company executive. Maybe they know the earnings report is going to be amazing or terrible before it's announced.
And they buy or sell shares based on that inside track.
Exactly. Or think about someone at an investment bank, maybe working on a merger that's still confidential. If they tell a friend, hey, company X is about to be bought, and that friend trades, that's insider dealing too, even if the banker didn't trade themselves. They tip someone off.
Ah, the classic tipper and tippy scenario. Makes sense.
Yeah, and the source also mentions consultants. They might learn something confidential while advising a client and then, misuse that information. Or even, say, a trader who somehow gets leaked government data ahead of time, maybe about a regulatory decision or something. Trading on that early info is also insider dealing.
Interesting. So it can be direct, like trading for yourself, or indirect, getting someone else to do it. And you mentioned something critical from the source, you don't even have to trade.
That's a really key point. Even just misusing or unlawfully disclosing that inside information can be a regulatory breach itself. Just sharing that non-public material info when you shouldn't can land you in hot water.
Wow. Okay, so the misuse is the core issue,
Precisely.
which naturally leads us to the rules. You said they're strict and global.
Oh, absolutely. It's prohibited in, well, pretty much all developed financial markets.
Mhm.
There are serious legal frameworks in place. The source points to a few key ones. In the U.S., there's Rule 10b-5 under the Securities Exchange Act. It's a broad anti-fraud rule that's heavily used against trading on MNPI material non-public information.
Okay, U.S. Rule 10b-5. What about elsewhere?
In the EU, they have the Market Abuse Regulation, or MAR. It creates a standard set of rules across all the member states. It clearly defines insider dealing and insists that firms prevent and detect it to keep the markets fair.
And the U.K.?
Yep, the UK has its own laws, like the Criminal Justice Act in 1993 and the Financial Services Act. These cover both the criminal side and the civil consequences. And you see similar laws enforced by local regulators all over the world, in Asia Pacific and other major markets. The message is consistent.
And the consequences if you get caught, I imagine they're not small.
Definitely not. We're talking serious stuff. The source mentions hefty fines, sometimes millions. Criminal charges are possible. Prison time, absolutely. And disgorgement of profits, basically. You have to give back every penny you made illegally.
Ouch. Give it all back.
Plus the reputational damage. I mean, it can completely destroy a career in finance.
So, given how hidden this can be, how do regulators and firms actually, spot it?
Yeah, that's the challenge. It requires constant vigilance, really. The source outlines several key red flags or risk indicators they look for. One of the most common ones is Suspicious trading activity right before some big price-moving news comes out.
Like someone making a huge bet on a stock just hours before a surprise merger announcement.
Exactly that kind of thing. Or unusual trading volume. Maybe timing that just doesn't fit with how a customer normally trades.
Hmm.
Or, say, trades by people who aren't usually active in the market but suddenly pop up trading shares of a company they have some connection to right before news.
Okay, so unusual patterns are key.
Definitely. The source also mentions an employee who has access to sensitive info suddenly changing their whole trading strategy, maybe shifting into a specific stock or sector unexpectedly. And of course, using third parties or like brand new accounts to make trades just before news hits, that's often a sign someone's trying to cover their tracks.
So firms really have to watch both their own employees' trading and their clients' activity for these patterns.
Yes, absolutely. It's a two-pronged approach.
So they spot a red flag. Then what? How do they investigate? This sounds like finding needles in haystacks.
Well, technology plays a huge role here. The source details the kinds of surveillance tools firms deploy. It's pretty sophisticated stuff.
Okay, like what?
Think about trade surveillance platforms. These systems monitor enormous amounts of data orders, trades, cancellations, looking for those anomalies, those unusual patterns we talked about, but at scale,
So automated pattern detection.
right? Another big one is monitoring voice and electronic communications,
Uh-huh.
analyzing emails, chats, even recorded phone lines. They use software to scan for keywords or discussions about non-public info happening around the time of suspicious trades.
Wow, scanning emails and calls.
Yeah, it requires complex pattern analysis and profiling too, trying to link trades to events, tracking behavior over time to see what's normal versus abnormal for someone. They also use watch lists and restricted lists. So if a firm knows it has sensitive information about company Y, they put company Y on a list to block or heavily scrutinize trading in its stock.
Makes sense. Like an internal do not trade list.
Kind of. And to handle all the alerts these systems generate, they use case management systems. These help automate the process of reviewing potential issues, escalating them if necessary, and documenting everything. And the source mentions that newer tech like AI and behavioral analytics are increasingly being used to make detection smarter and cut down on, false alarms.
So detection is one side of the coin. What about preventing it from happening in the first place? Firms must have internal controls for that.
Oh, definitely. Prevention is huge. The source talks about comprehensive internal controls that financial firms and also listed companies themselves need to have.
Right, building the defenses. What kinds of controls are we talking about?
A really fundamental one is information barriers, sometimes called Chinese walls. This means setting up strict separations, could be physical, could be technological, between departments that handle sensitive, non-public info, like, say, an M&A advisory team,
Okay.
and departments that trade securities, like a sales and trading desk. The idea is to stop that sensitive info from leaking across.
Got it. Keep the information siloed. What about controlling what individual employees do?
That's critical too. Firms have really strict employee trading policies. This often means employees have to get permission before they trade certain stocks. That's pre-clearance. There are usually blackout periods around major events, like earnings announcements, where employees simply aren't allowed to trade the company's stock at all, and they often have to disclose the trades they do make after the fact.
So lots of oversight on personal trades.
Yes. Plus, firms maintain detailed insider lists. These document exactly who has access to what specific piece of inside information and when they got access. It creates accountability.
Keeping track of who knows what.
And none of this works without people understanding the rules. So mandatory training and certification is key, educating everyone on what constitutes MNPI, what the rules are, what their obligations are. Secure whistleblowing channels are also vital, giving employees a safe, confidential way to raise concerns if they suspect something's wrong.
Seems like a multi-layered defense system, and I assume they check if it's actually working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Regular audits, reviews of any incidents that do happen, it's all part of checking that the controls are effective and being followed.
Okay, so if we pull all this together, the definition, how it happens, the tough rules, the detection tech, the prevention methods, what's the bigger impact here? Why does this matter so much?
Well, fundamentally, as we said at the start, it just damages market integrity. It shakes investor confidence. If people feel the market is rigged, that insiders always win, they won't participate. And that affects how prices are discovered fairly. It undermines that level playing field.
It really erodes the trust that makes markets work.
Exactly. And the source points out that regulators worldwide are really prioritizing enforcement. Things like whistleblower programs, especially in the U.S. with The SEC offering big rewards have really ramped up detection and reporting. It's definitely getting harder to get away with it.
And the source connects insider dealing to other problems too, right? It's not always isolated.
That's right. It can sometimes be linked to bigger issues like corporate fraud or corruption, maybe market manipulation schemes, or even simple violations of a firm's personal account dealing rules. It's often part of a wider pattern of misconduct.
So for the firms involved, getting this wrong carries huge risks.
Massive reputational and regulatory risk. So being proactive, really trying to identify, deter, and investigate potential insider dealing isn't just about, ticking compliance boxes. It's fundamental to being seen as ethical and trustworthy in the financial world.
So quite a journey. We've looked at what insider dealing is, the different ways it happens, the global crackdown on it, the sort of uh, technological cat and mouse game of detection,
Hmm.
the internal defenses firms put up, and really the profound damage it does to fair markets and investor trust.
It really does underscore how complex it is to protect market integrity today, with information moving so fast and being so widespread.
It's a constant challenge for sure.
What really stands out for me from the source material, beyond all the rules and tech, is the human element. Ultimately, despite all the systems, insider dealing often boils down to an individual making a choice to misuse information they know they shouldn't for their own benefit. It's a powerful reminder, I think, that personal integrity and ethical judgment are just as vital as any compliance program or surveillance algorithm.
That's a really important point to end on. Ethics are at the core. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into insider dealing. We hope this gives you, our listener, a clearer picture of this crucial issue in finance. Maybe something to think about next time you see market news unfold.